don't know if I'm starting the first one because I'm the youngest one here or because I'm a female. Or maybe because my name starts with A. So, dear delegates, dear friends and colleagues, I'm honored to be here with you today and share my experience on development of the profession in the new economy. As Mark mentioned, the Society of Certified Accountants and Auditors of Kosovo was established only in 2001. But I would like to start with a brief presentation of our development of the country, because I believe that each country have their own history. I think I should move, yeah. All right. So, my short presentation covers the brief history of Society of Certified Accountants to date, and I wish to explain how we developed a new profession in a new economy. I grew up in a Tito socialist economy. Maybe most of you have heard about Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia used to be one country and now has 7 countries, small countries. After the conflict in 1999, the United Nations and the interim government of Kosovo set up the basic elements of market-based economy. This was as much a shock as the conflict itself. Before, we related to state-owned enterprises and socially owned enterprises, which provided employment for citizens, goods, and services. From 2000, the socially owned enterprises were sold off, liquidated, or transformed into private limited companies. At that time, the founders of SCAC saw the opportunity for a new accounting and new audit function that meet the needs of the market economy. From the very beginning, we decided to model the new SCAC on that of the most established members of IFAC in Europe. In our early years, nobody in Kosovo have heard of IFAC. Who is IFAC and what is IFAC doing? Our citizens have heard about different brands like Sony, Nokia, Armani, iPhone, and happily embraced and bought their products. However, in the area of accounting and auditing, there was no initial interest in adopting the international best practice and standards for accounting and auditing. Therefore, we saw the need to promote IFAC within the Kosovo and to help all stakeholders to realize that there was an accounting and audit element to the new economy and the potential for a new profession to serve the needs of this new economy. In 2003, SCAC became an associate member of IFAC. But to comply with all the requirements that IFAC is requesting from their member bodies, we were lost. There was on the website of IFAC many different information, many different guides. And in that time, we decided to twin with a partner, the elder brother. So we twinned in 2007 with Royal Nivra, and now they are MBA, who have been a superb mentor for SCAC ever since then. These mentoring arrangements with Nivra not just helped us to develop the governance and within SCAC, but they also helped us in dialogue with the government and other stakeholders. Because SCAC was very new in that time, our senior officials were much more happier to meet and discuss the accounting policy issues with the Royal Nivra. They were all the time like a guide to us, using the best practices to implement and advising us for our journey up to date. In 2009, SCAC became a full member of IFAC. Living in the transition countries, it is very challenging, and you have to be very innovative as a person and also as a professional organization. Most of our members used to be in a socialist time, accountants or bookkeepers. The audit profession was new to us. So we inherited weak public financial management capacities and no experience on supreme audit institutions. Okay. Education of our members have started in 2002 with the development of the curricula only for the private sector. With the development of the country, also the need for the profession has grown. Many of our members started to work on the public sector. It is a high percentage of our members also today employed in the public sector. Maybe because we are a poor country, I don't know, but I have heard, and my experience with other countries is that also the members of small countries and countries in transition are employed in the government. Supreme Audit Office was established in that time, 2003. The government departments, municipalities expressed the needs for the good professionals in the public financial management too. So, as a SCAC, we have prepared new curricula that meets the need of the economy. We are delivering a range of the certificates. We have accounting technician certificate. Is it? Yeah. We are delivering a range of certificates. We have accounting technician certificate, certified accountant certificate, certified auditors in public and private sector. In 2003, we just have developed the certification for the auditors in the Supreme Audit Institution. We have also insolvency practitioners. I know that in many countries the lawyers are insolvency practitioners, but in Kosovo we were thinking that the auditors might be much better than the lawyers. So we have decided that insolvency practitioners to be within the accounting profession. So this might be one idea for your countries. Public financial management certification, we had signed the agreement with the Ministry of Finance to develop the public financial management diploma, and also in that time we have worked very closely with the CIFA and the World Bank. Actually, it was financed by the World Bank. We have tax inspector certification and also planning to get into internal audit certification. You might say that we have all the certification in one place, but it is important to mention again that we are a very small country with 2 million inhabitants, and to be sustainable professional organization, we have decided to have the certificates within one professional body. And my personal opinion is that accounting is accounting. We can just add to it. Let's continue. How we did. Although most of our energy during this time was used to develop education programs, to meet the needs of the country, SCAC in the same time has worked with the members to develop the members, and also translating the IFAC guides and tools that will help our members to better develop their firms. As I mentioned in the beginning, we have started the profession from the zero. And although we have developed the education and certification program, the most important part is that our members didn't have from where to get the practical experience. So they have learned the practical experience and the profession by in their jobs. So we have translated all the guides, and we were very focused on delivering the CPD for our members. We also did on-site training. What do I mean with the on-site training is that together with our twinning partner, we have visited our members and discussed the problems and difficulties that they are facing during the implementation of the guides, and using the experience from our partner to prepare a tailored CPD for the members. Just now, before I came to the World Congress, we have finished the on-site training of the SMPs for the quality assurance. Okay. So, to promote the profession, because in small countries and in transition countries, you have to promote the profession. Because in this period of time, the Kosovo is developing in many different areas, so we are not really in the politicians' agenda. The businesses are trying to grow their businesses. So accountants are really not very much important for them. And because of this, we have decided to be everywhere. And we are a member of Chamber of Commerce of Kosovo, American Chamber of Commerce, advisor to the Tax Administration Director, part of the Prime Minister's working group for Kosovo, and also lately, from last year, we have also the Women's Chamber of Commerce. So, because in this way, we believe that not just we are promoting the profession and our members, but we also are part of the economic growth and part of the education of the businesses and the government and politicians to understand the importance of the profession and public interest. I will now focus my presentation on lessons learned. And I should say in this part that what we have learned is importance of the PAO meeting the needs of its members in all sectors of the economy. For small and new professional organizations, support and partnerships are vital. Like we have signed the twinning with a Royal Nivra NBA called NOW, and it is very important that the government to be your partner on your development, central bank, supreme audit institution, and all other stakeholders. But also, we have to keep in mind that the tools that you can use from IFAC, like action plans and other guides, are very important for development in the process of the professional organization. In the end, let me say that as a professional organization, you must adapt and continue to innovate, and partnerships are essential. And as a Society of Certified Accountants and Auditors of Kosovo, we will continue the cooperation with our partners to use their experience, of course, always, but also to help and build capacities of our members and also share our experience with other countries who need that. And my final advice or message to all the PAOs is that success does not come alone. Success requires vision, very hard work, and also the recognition. So thank you very much for your attention. Now I'm inviting Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Andrew Conway. I'm the Chief Executive of the Institute of Public Accountants from Australia. It's a great pleasure to be here, and thanks, Eamon, as Chairman of this session, for the invitation to IFAC as well as the Italian Institute. It's great to be here to share some insights about our story. As Eamon said in his introduction, that I don't think any of the stories here are necessarily scripts for what to do in your own organisations, but possibly a way for us to bounce some exchanges off each other about what happens in our relevant jurisdictions, but also what works and particularly what doesn't, to help grow and protect the public interest and also the interest of our members. So I've got some initial thoughts to share with you. I'll run through those slides as quickly as I can to stick to Eamon's strict time frame, and happy to share some conversations either during the session or later on. But where I wanted to pick up was basically where Adiana left off, was that notion around vision, working hard, and the notion of recognition, because it neatly dovetails into the story of the IPA as an organisation, built on the notion of respect, respecting our members, but also the notion of trust, that we respect the fact that The clients and the employers of our members trust our members, and by extension, our members trust us to give them support and advice. And so we spend a lot of time trying to understand that relationship between ourselves as a PAO and our members to ensure that we never lose sight of the fact that the very fact that we are here in Rome, the very fact we have a booth, I'll come to that later, the very fact that we are able to do the things we do is because our members pay their subs year on year. And that notion of respecting our membership drives our organisation to the point where, I'll give you one very quick anecdote before I get into the slides. Our system generates for me a report every Monday morning. At 6:01 a.m, my email goes off and it sends me a list of members that we admitted the week before. And it has their contact details, and I set myself a personal KPI that I would call every single member that week that they were admitted. And so I do that still to this day, 5 years on in the role, that I call every new member to say, welcome to the Institute. And the insights that gains is absolutely powerful, and it gives us a great deal of insight and drives our strategy to the point where we're doing our management retreats or our strategic planning workshops. If we get to a point where we don't have the answer, we get a list of members and we go and call them and say, what do you think? Because I think if we ever lose sight of that notion that members drive these organisations, then we've got to give the game away. To the point that if a member receives a fee renewal notice every year and says, will I or won't I renew my membership, you've got to give the game away and go back to square one as an organisation. So, let's get into it. To that end, some brief background about the Institute of Public Accountants. So we are one of the 3 recognised professional bodies in Australia. All 3 bodies are recognised here, obviously at the World Congress, with the other Australian bodies having booths and presences here. Of the 3, in numerical size, in membership size, we are the smallest of the 3 bodies with 26,000 members, but founded over 90 years ago. We've got offices throughout Australia, obviously throughout mainland China, which is actually our fastest growing offshore division, Hong Kong and Malaysia. But our primary focus, if we're looking at our point of difference, is on small and medium enterprise and small and medium practice. That's where well more than 75% of our members work every day. So as a point of difference, that's probably the strongest point of difference we have, together with our education program, which we offer the IPA program as a fully accredited Masters of Commerce degree through the University of New England in Australia. So again, a slightly different way, slightly different model of delivery to some other PAOs around the world. The track record of innovation we've listed there links back to that notion. Back in 2009, the board took a very strong decision to adopt an innovation mindset, as we call it, and to basically leave no stone unturned as an organisation. Now, we didn't get everything right, but we got plenty right, and where we didn't have the answers, we went and sought and got the evidence to prove the strategy. So that track record of innovation was then validated by our external recognition as being recognised just a couple of years ago as one of Australia's most innovative companies back in 2012. But our growth's been strong, as it says there, more than 50% increase in our membership intake since 2009. Some recent developments of the IPA. We've rolled out what we call a Fit for the Future strategy. It's not an uncommon term, I know. Other organisations use it, but it works for us. So it builds on the notion of starting with the innovation, rolling through to the Fit for the Future strategy, which segments our organisation and operations. We rebranded and repositioned our institute back in 2011 from the National Institute of Accountants to the Institute of Public Accountants, seizing upon the notion of public being that our members are accredited and recognised to provide services ultimately in the public interest, and that's either working within a public practice or within a professional setting as a member in commerce or in academia or public sector or the not-for-profit sector. We've spent a lot of money in investing in our IT, and that's really the hub of our growth in our infrastructure as an organisation. So in Australian dollars, about 4.5 million Australian dollars. In euro, about 200 euro. But if you excuse the exchange rate pun, it's about the equivalent of about close to $4 million US in our infrastructure in the last 5 years. Again, in relative terms for us, has been a big investment. We've built our own membership management service and system so that we are no longer reliant upon a proprietary software provider. We got a little bit sick of being told that it was going to cost us $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a change to our system when we wanted it. We've laid over the top of that a SQL Server reporting suite so that we can get real-time information about our organisation. We know how many members are registered for events. We know what our intake rates are. We know what our members are doing, where they are, who they are, and what they're saying about us. So it's a very sophisticated platform linked into our e-commerce as well, which has been overhauled. One of the things we did with innovation was we've been focusing in on taking the compliance burden away from practices and making sure they're actually a value add. So a very clear example we've listed here is our public practice quality assurance program. Now those PAOs represented in the room will know that it's not the best thing in the world to do. Those practitioners know in the world that it's not the best thing to receive an email or a letter saying, congratulations, your practice has been selected for review. So we took what was a 550 question hard copy questionnaire linked with the face-to-face review, the post-review and the reporting process, and converted that online. So we took what was effectively a 4-day compliance burden away from practice and took that to being now a 4-hour on average compliance burden on the practice. Completely digitised the hard copy review, and that actually has been turned around to offer a value add to the practice. So not only does the practice receive the compliance tick, they get a report at the end of the review which benchmarks their practice to other like practices. And so there's a value add rather than it necessarily being a compliance burden. And as I mentioned before, the recognition for innovation. In terms of positioning ourselves for the future, linking back to the theme of this session, as an organisation, we take this very seriously, and I'm delighted, particularly in the audience, that we've got David Woodgate and Catherine Chamberlain from the Institute of Financial Accountants, because we recently announced, together with the IFA, a plan to amalgamate both organisations to form what is going to be the largest SME and SMP focused accounting group in the world, with representing more than 35,000 members and students across the globe. The principal focus being small and medium practice, small and medium enterprise. It's the first time, to our knowledge, that two accounting organisations have come together based on policy rather than geography. And so we're delighted to be working with the IFA throughout that process, and we expect to have that completed by the end of the calendar year. In terms of our other approaches, the macro approach, we've engaged in a future series seminars around Australia and around the region. We're looking at the notion of productivity enablers, and we can perhaps talk about this throughout the questions, but also the role of technology, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the short time left. But also not forgetting the fact that we do have very strong micro focus as an organisation, and I think also as an economy, certainly in Australia, and I think that's quite similar around the world. But for us as an organisation and as a profession in Australia, there's a very strong push for accountants to be offering a broader range of services, not just business advisory services, but offering more holistic financial advisory services, personal wealth management advice, and that sort of level of advice. And if you like, the homogenisation of those professional engagements is becoming more common in Australia, and I think throughout the region. We'll continue to focus and have continued to focus on our member-centric approach to make sure that our members are kept abreast of those challenges, but also the opportunities that are posed by that shrinking world. We continue to extend our advocacy reach, and to that point we were delighted to lead the development of the Australian Small Business White Paper. Again, the first time in Australia's history the industry has led the development of a white paper on small business policy. So we brought together a range of stakeholders from other industry groups and associations through to government, ministers, opposition ministers, to regulators, policymakers, bankers, the full gamut of the stakeholder suite to develop a small business policy for Australia. And that is in the final stages of its development now. We've done a complete roadshow of that around the country to the regions throughout Australia, appreciating, of course, that we might be able to drive in 4 hours between countries here in Europe, but in Australia it takes us 4 hours to fly from one side of the country to the other. So the logistics of getting that around the country has been quite intense, but that's in its final stages of development, and we're delighted with its progress, which will lead towards a roadmap which brings together, again, all of those stakeholders for the first time in Australia's history. It's been supported both by the Minister and the Prime Minister, but also the opposition in Australia, and really has changed the level of dialogue in Australia in terms of our small business approach. Again, it links back to our strategic positioning, our unique value proposition that we exist to support and grow small business in Australia. We initiated that dialogue, and it's been backed by an extensive policy paper available on our website. If you are having trouble sleeping, it's a great read, but if you are having trouble sleeping, you're more than welcome to download it or make contact with us for a copy. But it does provide a summary roadmap for the nation. And it is with the overarching intention of turning Australia into the best place in the world to open and run a small business. Just some final slides in relation to the future of the profession, just to give you some idea of the size of the profession. This data is sourced from IBIS World. It gives you some idea of the size of the revenue pool in accounting services in Australia. This is really around the firms. So of this, our share through our practice is around a $2.5 billion split in terms of the IPA practices' share of that revenue. But again, a profitable industry expected to grow by around 3.5%. So the profession in Australia and the demand for accounting services is growing rapidly in Australia, as is the demand for skilled practitioners and skilled labour in the accounting services space. We have some information on that at our booth in relation to skilled migration for those that might be interested. We have a big gap in Australia. Finally, just in terms of the role of technology. Some interesting stats here that, in 2009, so we're talking about the last 5 years as that horizon that Eamon mapped out, we had 8% of the Australian population using a mobile device. Now, if we look around this conference, yes, we have apps, although they have varying degrees of success, but look around the conference, look around the breaks at the conference. I talked earlier this week at the World Bank Conference around what I refer to as the 45 degrees of separation. When we talk about 45 degrees, it's the distance between the trajectory from your eyes to your palm, because everyone at a break around here is using their mobile phone or their device. And the reality is that that's the way we live and that's the way we work. So unless we're positioning our organisations and the way we're communicating with members accordingly, we're going to be left behind. And the accounting profession, as we know, is a refugee to technology, whereas the new students coming to our profession are indigenous to it. And there is a gap there, a connectivity gap that we need to address to make sure that our profession is relevant and is communicating relevance in relation to those new practitioners coming to the profession. Otherwise, we won't be able to make up the ground. So we take that very seriously. It frames the way in which our digital strategy drives our organisation, the way we connect with our members. We could be doing it a whole lot better, and we keep trying to do it even more so. But digital delivery is king. As much as we like to think practitioners love to read technical journals and articles, the reality is most of us will opt for a 5-minute web download or a podcast or a video cast over a technical journal article, with by all means links to those references, but it's the way in which we're downloading content now. And so we've got to have our digital strategy. So my question there to you as a PAO potentially is, what is your digital strategy? Do your clients have a digital strategy? In Australia, 80% of businesses don't have one. So there's an immense opportunity for accountants to provide that service and advice as productivity enablers, as the trusted productivity advisor for business tomorrow. And this notion here around smartphone usage, 65% now, based in January this year, 65% of Australians have a smartphone. They use it extensively to access information. 90% use it to access the web. And so the trend is absolutely immense. 41% doing some form of commerce using their smartphone. We are here at the Congress more than happy to take questions or comments. That's our booth. You might have seen as you came in through the exhibition space, booths 28 to 30. We are giving away a trip to Australia as a prize, so do make your way to the booth to try and snare that. I tried to win it, but I sold as ineligible. I'm not sure whether the staff don't want me to return, I don't know, but so do make your way to the booth to find out more information. Again, delighted to be here, to be part of this conversation, and thanks for the invitation. Thanks very much. Now, a pleasure to introduce Shahid Daniels, the CEO of SIPA from South Africa. Thanks, Shahid.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everybody. I also would like to express my thanks to IFAC and the organizing committee for inviting me to make a presentation on the future of PAOs in the year 2020. But I'll take it from backwards in terms of where we're coming from and where we're going through. I also will start off
Maybe this way.
Thank you. Thanks, Adriana. I also would like to start in terms of a brief history of SAIPA, where we're coming from. We started way back in 1982 as an accounting technician institute. We've evolved over the years to become a fully fledged professional accountancy organization with our own exams. It's a 4.5-hour exams, which is predominantly a case study-based exam. We were become a member of IFAC in 1995, and we have currently 10,000 members, and the same like the IPA in Australia, predominantly members in the SMPs servicing the SME market. We are governed by a constitution, and as a non-profit organization with a board, various committees who support Secretariat in its functions. So that is very briefly of where we're coming from as a professional accountancy organization. Learnings from the past and the challenges. We know for a fact how fast the profession is changing, the challenges, continuous and rapid changes, an additional framework a few years ago, IFRS for SMEs, the continuous enhancements of standards, both education, audit, as well as ethics. We also wouldn't like to see us just as a membership body, but rather as a professional accountancy organization. And there is a slight difference between the two for where we're coming from. Members' body is just where the members have a right and say in it. However, as a professional organization, we are governed by various infrastructure, legislation, membership of other organizations which you have to comply with. As much as you don't lose focus of your members' requirements, but you need to attend to the bigger scheme of things. And I would like to see the members as the shareholders of the PAO, the institute as a business, and the market in which you operate is the accountancy profession. We also have undergone a number of name changes, way back as an Institute of Accounting Technicians. And there, at the time, we had an excellent relationship with the next speaker, which is the AAT of the UK, but we have moved on and changed our name to Commercial and Financial Accountants, Certified Public Accountants, and in 2006 we relaunched ourselves as the South African Institute of Professional Accountants. Recent developments in the profession that's affecting us as a PAO. We had a new Auditing Professions Act established in 2006. The last act was in 1991. New Companies Act in 2008. The previous one in 1973. Total new corporate legal entity requirements, as well as a new report, which is an independent review in terms of the regulations. We also had a new Tax Administration Act in 2011. And we, as an institute itself, have started a journey way back in 2010 to see how are we being governed as an institute. The journey have undergone from 2010 towards the latter part of 2010 until a consultative process, and we had launched our new constitution in last year in 2013. We've looked what's happened globally with other institutes, but we've customized it to our jurisdiction, in our environment, what is relevant to us in our jurisdiction. We have a new governance structure. Our RA is the regional associations. There's 5 of them. And the district associations, there's a number of districts reporting into the regional associations. We've also established a nominating committee, which our previous constitution didn't have, to allow the nominating committee to consider and look at the best candidates to serve the board. We've also, in our governance structures, 2 non-accountants to serve on the board, coming from a different expertise, as much as the institute, so the board in itself is predominantly as members, as coming from our own members. 2/3 of our members are continuously members from our members. The recent change in the profession is we had a ROSC report in 2012, which was only accepted by the Minister of Finance, and there's 2 major policy recommendations that can affect us as a professional accountancy body. First, as the auditing profession is the only part of the profession that is regulated, the recommendation is to regulate the entire accountancy profession, and we're currently in discussions with all the other organizations within South Africa, and also a consideration to incorporate a public sector module in our qualification. Where to from here? It is my belief that the only change, the only constant in life is change. And I would like to quote you those 2 quotes there by saying the future is not a place where we're going, but one we're creating. The paths to it are not found, but made. And the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination. In times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. And the 2 scribers of those 2 quotes there, I think, and that is so apt in terms of where we're going and where we want to take our institute, SAIPA, as a professional accountancy organization within the broader global accountancy profession. So, we've long gone by being a bean counter and number cruncher. That's history. We heard yesterday Barry Melanson of the AICPA make reference to a trusted business advisor. We see our members and position our members as a professional business advisor. So where's the future? The future is that you must have visionary leadership. We've just heard my 2 colleagues earlier have made reference in terms of the vision, and the vision. You must have a vision where you want to take the organization, and that's going to stem from the board. Globalization has far-reaching implications. If we look at what's happening in the profession nowadays in terms of MOU signed across borders, not only on your continent, relationships between organizations, between PAOs, it's become an imperative. Technological innovations. Yesterday, I attended a conference by the World Bank. Theme is accountancy, framing the future by accountancy. IT was the imperative in terms, and we heard previously how important IT is, and you heard Andrew make reference, the amount of investment they have invested in to set up the IT infrastructure to be able to communicate with their members and offering various services. We also need to look at companies and its current models. How do we as a profession fit in that, and how do we make a contribution to be part of their journey? And we also need to adapt ourselves to continuous regulatory environments and environmental changes, including socio-economic. What is our role in terms of our respective jurisdictions, socio-economic changes in our country? The next 2 slides is just 2 graphs, which I want to very briefly run through it in terms of what is SAIPA's sustainability driver. In the middle is SAIPA. We will continue to develop competent professionals. This is ongoing. We will continue benchmark our competency framework to best practice. Our foundation the KSAs is the knowledge, the skills, and the attributes to be this professional accountant SA, as well as what products and services do we offer, and the values that you need to have is the underlying, as well as the continuous development of CPD to our members. And you'll see in my next 2 slides in terms of how important that is from where we're coming. The next one, I've taken the leaf out of the PIAB in terms of how to position yourself as a member. What is your performance? What are we doing as an institute to assist our members to be able to perform as well as to conform? Creator of value, the enabler of value, the preserver of value, and the reporter of value. And I will just touch very briefly, due to my time constraints, on 2 points of that. The emphasis of this 21st century accountant, professional accountant, is to add value to the client or the organization which you serve, rather than just become a recorder of transactions or an assessor of any business transaction. You need to add value by value-added services by assisting, advising, and guiding management with analysis information. The buzzwords these days are big data. What are we doing about it? How do we see as a professional accountant in the sphere of big data? And a new theme that I've just learned yesterday is 3D printing. 3D printing. I didn't know what it is. I've inquired from my colleagues during the sessions, the breakout sessions yesterday, and it is something that we have to see. How do we position ourselves with this 3D printing? What are we offering to our members as a members professional services organization? Over and above, when you qualify as a professional accountant SA, we offer additional certifications. It's imperative that we know that our members, when you put it out there in the market, that you need to be relevant, you need to be competent, to be able to serve the market. We have a professional tax practitioner in terms of the tax legislation in South Africa.